So we just wrapped up watching the 13th practice of the spring. There's a lot to get into and some observations I have there, and as well as the interviews with a lot of people today. But first off, I want to thank everybody who watched the video, the behind the scenes video, something new I decided to do. Seems like a lot of you liked it. I'd like to come up with some other new ideas like that to add to the channel. Okay, so interviews afterwards, it was with defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, defensive players Jake Lichtenstein, Wayne Mansteed, and freshman Wesley Basaint. I will get into some things that they had to say, as well as running backs Thad Franklin and Henry Parrish. There was a lot to get to today. First off, with my observations today, I focused a lot on the quarterbacks today. It's a position I've seen throughout the spring. I focused on them early. I wanted to get back to them and really pay attention to them. I will have video of their drills today. The things that stood out to me today with their drills was they were working a lot with the wide receivers. They were doing a lot of rollout stuff, a lot of short passes, working on slants, timing. All of those things are important, as well as some close passes to the end zone that they definitely wanted to go high on the ball or the back end of that end zone just to make different throws. But certainly timing was a big one today. I thought that receivers are running interesting routes where they would cut in on a slant and then also don't stay inside but get back outside, and the quarterback had to make sure that they were doing a good job reading and putting the ball where they needed to be, essentially putting it into space as opposed to exactly where the receiver was at the time. Certainly it's an important throw for all quarterbacks, and obviously making reads in the red zone, inside the 10, inside the 5 when they decide to throw is certainly important. And I thought that all the quarterbacks did a pretty good job. Tyler Van Dyke is doing well. You know, sometimes we don't talk about, or I don't talk about him enough, because you just come to expect great play or really good play out of him. And that's kind of what I've seen most of the spring. And you'll get a chance to see him in the spring game on Saturday, April 16th, there at Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. So definitely check him out there. It'll be televised on the ACC Network live. So, and we'll have plenty of updates there for the spring game. And I've got some more stuff I want to do leading up to the spring game. But definitely keep an eye on Tyler. You know, he's a guy that is looking to take that jump. Everyone's excited about what he did last year, but certainly he can still improve on his game, and I think he's making the right throws. I think he's doing a good job of that this spring. There's nothing that I've seen this spring where it's like, okay, I think this guy might take a step back. So he's been good this spring. Jake Garcia, Ja'Cory Brown, another guy, a couple guys, young guys that are interested to see how they do, and certainly they seem to have better days than others. You know, maybe it hasn't been as consistent, but certainly I think both of those guys have bright futures. And today in the drills, and you'll see it with their footwork, doing a good job of rolling out, getting their feet set, and then making the throw. And I thought they did a good job of that today. And sliding over to the running back position, because it's a group that I said a couple of those guys spoke today, and I want to quickly make a couple quick notes, particularly with Thad Franklin. He said he's currently weighing 238 pounds. He says he feels a little bit lighter than he's been. And I asked him, you know, where would he like to be for the season? You know, is this where he wants to be? And he wants to get down to around 225. So I think that's interesting to note, but certainly he's a bigger back, and obviously he's tough to bring down and those kind of things. But one thing that Wayne Mansteed said was, for a guy that's a bigger back, he does have some elusive ability, and I think that's a good sign for a guy. I've touched on that a little bit here throughout the spring, that he's making some good runs, but certainly I still think it's an uphill battle for Thad to really make an imprint on this team with the guys that are more proven, that have done more at this level. And certainly he's gonna have to elevate his play. I think a spring game's an opportunity for him to do well and come and show out, so we'll see how he does there. But I think with Henry Parrish and Jalen Knighton and Don Chaney, I think those guys are just ahead of a guy like Thad. But the thing is, Thad does bring something with his physicality that those other three backs just don't have, but he's got to be productive in all facets. So those are some things I just want to note with Thad. And then Henry Parrish is certainly excited about being back at Miami, where he grew up, state champ at Columbus. And one of the things a reporter asked afterwards, was maybe the differences between Lane Kiffin and now Mario Cristobal with what he sees. And he touched on a few things. I definitely will post more in detail on that on the website on InsideTheU.com. But one of the things that stood out is he really believes in what's going on at Miami, and believes the terms he used, it's 10 times better than what was going on at Ole Miss. And certainly he believes, and he said it, that they can win a title at Miami. So that's the goal. And I thought that was interesting, because certainly Ole Miss was doing some winning while Parrish was there in Oxford. So interesting notes and interesting how to say, but certainly he's confident. That's why he came to Miami. He wanted to not just come home, but he wanted to play for a team that he felt like that could win big. Transitioning to Miami's defense, starting with Kevin Steele, defensive coordinator. We've not had a chance to talk to him since the first, those first few practices of the spring. There's a few things, there's a lot of things. I'm gonna post his full video so you can see everything that he had to say, but one thing that stood out to me was he said there's a group that he is pleasantly surprised with, and that's the cornerback group. I thought that was interesting because, it's honestly a position that, when you start to look at it, you do think maybe this group can be better than they've been in the past. You got Tyreek Stevenson, who's been out all spring, but you got a guy back like Al Blades Jr. who can play safety or corner. You've got some young guys coming up. To Corey Couch, we've talked about him. He's a guy looking to bounce back. Obviously, if he plays like he did last year, that's not going to help the group. But if he plays like he did a couple years ago to end that 2020 season and really build off of that, certainly he can be a productive player. So DJ Ivey has shown flashes. We'll see if he can put it all together. But, it's an interesting group. Isaiah Dunson is starting to get some good reps in, and so definitely keep your eyes on those guys as they look to be, a productive group, a reliable group. And look, corners are going to get beat. I know it's tough. It's hard to see, especially when teams go deep, but limiting damage is always important for the cornerback position, not giving up the big play. And if somehow they can turn some of those pass deflections into interceptions, that would be big. But I do think, I see what Kevin Steele is saying, and I was a little surprised that he said that, but it's not a surprise in the sense I do think he's right. I think there are some things there that maybe should give people a little bit more hope coming out of fall as opposed to going into it, because I do think that these guys do have a chance to at least be stable, reliable guys, a lot of guys with experience. So we'll see how it progresses. Look, it's not perfect by any means, but we'll see how they do in the spring game. But also kind of moving forward, I do think that there are some things there to build on, and I'm curious to see how they continue to develop. I definitely want to jump into the linebacker spot on the defense. We've talked about it a lot, but real quick, Jake Lichtenstein on the defensive line. Look, one of the things he said was he was excited that he's playing with Jafari Harvey, that defensive end. Jake's been primarily that defensive tackle spot. And he said, playing with Harvey, who's a guy that's relentless, is doing a good job of being able to take a tackle outside where Jake can kind of attack the B gap. And I thought that was interesting. And Jake is learning how to play with Jafari, there, in that top line, that top group. So Jafari's had some good performances in scrimmages. We'll see if it continues in the spring game, but definitely it's been a positive for him. We've not heard his name like this amount since he's been at UM. So it seems like he's taken some proper steps in the right directions, which is good to hear. And moving to the linebacker spot, Wesley Bassint, a freshman everybody's excited about, and they should be. This is a guy that has a real chance to make an immediate impact. Honestly, I think he has a real chance to be a starter come fall when the season opens up. I think he's done all the things he's supposed to do in the spring. He's been out here all the time. He's a guy that's taken on all the learning, and he's got the abilities as well with his athleticism and tackling ability. I think he's definitely a guy headed in the right direction for his future, and I think the future is going to be sooner than later with him. And certainly a lot of players are raving about him. They like what they see in him. Touched on Lichtenstein, he's a guy that's been around college football for a long time, and he said, Wesley is out here, doesn't seem like a freshman at all, it doesn't seem like his first spring, he's making plays and doing well there. And Wesley came in at 192 pounds in January, and he said he's already up to 205 pounds, so a 13-pound increase there already. Has goals of be even heavier, when the season starts, 215, 220, 225. Definitely look for those numbers when the season begins. He's definitely doing everything doing everything right at this time, and I do think he's going to get there in a few months from now. He's going to be right where you need him to be, and it'll be something that he'll continue to grow as he gets older and goes through the more weight training and the process with it. But certainly, once again, one of these guys that's on the right track, doing everything right on and off the field so far, and definitely you should be excited about him. It's not one of these guys that comes in with hype and he kind of falls short. I do think everything that I've seen so far with drills that Wesley does have a bright future and he's doing well. A lot of people are saying positive things about him, and like I said, I think he definitely can make an immediate impact as a freshman. I touched on some of the things that Kevin Steele had to say about being pleasantly surprised. Jake Lichtenstein was honest and said he's been a little surprised with the play of Thomas Davis, a defensive end, a guy that didn't play last year. didn't know what Jake's, he wasn't around him last year, but just when he transferred over from USC, he didn't know what to expect from Thomas, but he's actually saying, he's doing a pretty good job making plays and things like that. And we do see it in flashes, and certainly Thomas has a long ways to go, to be in that real top mix. But he's just a young guy showing flashes after being injured last year. It's a positive sign for him. It's been a positive spring for him as he continues to learn and everything here. And I do want to mention, before I wrap this up, again, spring game coming on Saturday, April 16th, a lot to look forward in there. But I do think that there's going to be some player movement. I think there's going to be some guys leaving the program. I think things will be announced kind of this week or even next couple of weeks after spring ball. It just happens, particularly with the transfer portal, and anytime there's a head coaching change. Look, there's things that happen. It goes both ways. It can be a mutual departure, from the coaching staff. It's just not the right fit, as well as the players. Essentially, they say you're always supposed to go to the school and the program. That's the school that you commit to, but they commit to players, or they commit to the coaches as well. And certainly these guys, a lot of them didn't sign up for this coaching staff. So, it just happens. I do expect it to happen. I think it'll continue, just like I think Miami's going to continue to add players in the transfer portal moving forward. A lot to get into, a lot to talk about, and a lot to write about on InsideTheU.com on the website. So I want to thank everybody again watching all these videos, but also, like I said from the beginning, watching that behind the scenes look, something new to the channel. I'm always trying to come up with new ideas. I'm glad it seemed to work out well. There's always things I'd like to do a little bit better, a little bit differently moving forward, but I think it's a good start. I want to thank everybody again. Stay tuned. A lot of coverage leading up to the spring game, as well as post-spring performances, how everybody looked in the game. And I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Who are some guys that you're looking forward to seeing in the spring game? Who are you most excited about actually seeing in person for the people that are going to go? Or if you watch it on TV, who are you curious about that maybe you'd like to find out more about? Or who do you think's gonna have a big game? So a lot more to get into. I want to thank everybody again. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day, and take care.